Hey guys, my name is Matthew, and this is my review of The Haunting of Brynn Wilder by Wendy Webb. The Haunting of Brynn Wilder is a novel about Brynn. She's spending the summer in Wharton after a series of hard years. She's lost her mother, has dealt with a kind of a nasty divorce, and overall, she's just kind of looking to relax for the summer. While this book is marketed as kind of a creepy or a supernatural type book, and there are some of those elements, I would say it doesn't actually take the turn that you might expect it to. This book isn't a horror book or a creepy book necessarily. I would say it struggles to define exactly what genre it is. Something between a romance and a drama with some supernatural elements. In this review, I'm going to list some of my observations about this novel, starting with some of my favorite things about the novel and then moving through the list to some of the things that I don't like as much. To start with, this novel is a really enjoyable read. I'd say it's comfortable. It feels like one of those novels that are just easy to read, maybe less like a book and more like a Lifetime movie in some ways. Like it's just something that's not necessarily super memorable, but the plot is predictable and it's easy to kind of just read the book. It was a nice read. Something that I really liked about this novel, something it did really well, was it dealt with the process of grief and loss really, really well. I really appreciated the characters who were caring for their loved ones who had terminal illnesses, and for the ones who had lost family members as well. They were really relatable, and it was really helpful to be able to see them kind of process those losses. Another thing that Wendy Webb does just an amazing job at is setting the scene. The setting here is amazing, and the small town that she is describing feels real, like I could really see it. It's like it's off of a postcard, but also the characters in the town are so real that it really feels like a real town. I do think the conclusion was really clever. Going into the kind of last couple chapters, I was not sure how she was going to tie everything together, and she doesn't quite. There are a couple loose ends that they don't quite sit with me very well, but altogether I think the conclusion was clever. There was a nice twist there and it all kind of tied together all right. It was interesting and I enjoyed the conclusion. Some things that I don't like as much. The first one is I think this book is trying to sit in too many genres. What I mean by that is it looks like it's marketed as kind of a creepy novel or a horror novel, but then it's like also got some strong elements of romance, drama, and I just felt like I wasn't exactly sure what kind of book I was reading, and it felt like the author wasn't quite sure what kind of book she was writing either. And so while it doesn't fit neatly into one specific genre, that means that she didn't do any one particular genre terribly well either. Another thing that really kind of annoyed me in this book was Wendy Webb has some verbal crutches. I noticed there's one particular phrase she used quite a number of times, which is she took in a quick breath. It was overused just in the very first 7 chapters. It was used like 6 times or something. And that wasn't the only one. There were a fair number of these phrases that just got a little bit overused. So who is this book for? I have a hard time picking exactly who should read this book. I suppose if you enjoy reading a novel and you don't necessarily want a lot of weight to it, this is a great novel for that. It was a fun read, it was pretty quick, it's relatively enjoyable, and like I said, it feels really comfortable. So if you just enjoy reading, feel free to pick up this book. I think you'll probably like it. If you're looking for something scary or supernatural, this is probably not quite gonna scratch that itch for you. It doesn't have enough of those elements, even though that's what it looks like it's meant to be. Actually, probably the person who'd get the most out of this novel would be someone who's dealing with grief or loss, or maybe a loved one who's recently been diagnosed with an illness of some kind. The author actually does a really good job of wrestling with those issues and using those themes throughout the book in a way that I think is relatively healthy. You may actually get a lot out of it and may help you to process your own grief by reading a book like this. In that way, the book actually may be helpful in therapeutic use. This has been my review of The Haunting of Brynn Wilder. If you enjoyed this content, do feel free to like and subscribe, and as always, stay safe out there.